Today, I want to teach you a concept that is basically one of the foundations to something that I teach to every client. Okay. And this is how to essentially simplify your choices. So, when we struggle with overwhelm, and I have yet to meet a client in decluttering who has never struggled with overwhelm. I still struggle with overwhelm. The reason why that happens is because we're looking at too many things. We're looking at this whole entire space, right? And we're looking at all of the decisions that need to be made. And then we look at all of the clutter and we start feeding ourselves these messages, kind of saying like, they're kind of like berating, like, why did you let yourself get here? You start shaming yourself, you feel badly. And when we get stuck in a cycle of being mean to ourselves, because that's really what we're doing, it does not propel us into motion and help us clear out our clutter. What it does is it forces us into a state of shutdown. Okay. So have you ever been overwhelmed by decisions, by clutter, by complications from mental health? And then the message you start telling yourself is unkind. It's also untrue. I'm going to say that all the mean things that you say to yourself, they're not true. So you're saying unkind, untrue things to yourself. And then it makes it hard to get off the couch. It makes it hard to go take a shower. It makes it hard to get out of bed. It makes it hard to go brush your teeth. It makes it hard to remember to feed yourself. Okay, so shame does not propel us into motion and towards success. It really, really doesn't. So I have this thing that I call the next right thing, the next right thing. And that's what I want to explain to you. So it is a very simple way to simplify all of our choices. So if we're looking at the big picture and we get overwhelmed and we get shut down, we want to circumvent that. Okay. So that's asking yourself in this moment right now, what do I need to do? Like, and I think first we have to check in with our body. Okay. I don't know if you've heard that saying to treat yourself like a glorified houseplant, right? Are you fed? Are you watered? Did you get some sunshine? And are you talking to yourself kindly? Okay. And the reason why that applies to the houseplant scenario is that scientists did a study on one set of plants that were growing that had people that were saying mean things to them, and another set of plants who had the same amount of sunlight, same amount of water, but people were talking kindly to them. Okay. The plants that got the kind messages, they grew better, right? So these guys over here, it kind of felt like they were always in the proverbial dark, and it felt like, that they just couldn't ever get it together, and nobody believed in them. And I know that they're just plants, okay? But if we take that concept and we apply it to ourselves, let's take meanness and self-shaming and just take that off the table. Okay, it's going to take you to a while to undo that thinking and undo that messaging. But every time you catch yourself and you reword and you reframe, it's going to get easier. Okay, it's like flexing a muscle that you just don't use. It's going to hurt in the beginning, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. We're not always going to want to do it, but it's going to benefit us in the end. So if we've checked in with our body, and we've checked in on nutrition and sunshine and water and talking kindly to ourselves, then we can take a look at our space and we can say, you know what? I'm going to break it down into zones. I'm a big fan of zones, okay? Because when you take a whole space and you're bouncing around all over the place, it's really hard to see the fruits of your labor. So concentrate on a zone. And what is a zone? Let's say you're working on a coffee table. Maybe it's just the top of the coffee table. That's where we start with, top of the coffee table. Eventually, we can do, if your coffee table has drawers, a drawer of the coffee table or the shelf of a coffee table. I don't even care about the floor around it right now. Okay, I want you to do things in micro zones. And if you are a person who gets easily sidetracked, or if you struggle with the idea of marathon cleaning, okay, that's not the be all end all to decluttering. We don't have to do it for an hour or 3 hours to be successful. Try 10 minutes. Okay, just do 10 minutes at a time. And then when you've cleared that little zone, practice checking in with it. Okay, spend some time each day just going, okay, I'm just going to check on the top of the coffee table make sure I haven't left random things there that I don't want to for it to call it a home. Okay, because what happens is that we get so used to placing things down in random areas. In my house, it's my dining room table. That's my hot zone. If I don't check in with it regularly, it'll get filled up with stuff. And I feel like I blinked and just all of a sudden there's been a party and things have gathered and I don't even know how it got there. It's because I wasn't attending to the space. So when we think about decluttering, we keep thinking that it's, get rid of things, do this big marathon, and then we're done. But decluttering is a long game. Okay. And so I call it conquering and defending. So we're going to conquer a zone and then we're going to defend it. We're just going to keep showing up and checking in on it, because if we check in on places regularly and we catch those 1 to 3 items right out of the gate and put them back where they belong, then you don't get piles and piles of stuff. And eventually you will have a new habit. Okay. So your habit won't be just to drop and run, right? It's going to be that you're defending the space, that you continue to maintain it. And that's going to serve your long game when it comes to decluttering. Okay. So when you get overwhelmed by something, okay, that means you're looking at all of these things and we've got to break it down into zones. Like it's almost like putting it in little boxes. Okay. If you get overwhelmed by a project or you have a bunch of phone calls to make, right? And like, okay, I've got like 5 phone calls. I hate the phone. It gives me a lot of anxiety. So don't focus on 5 phone calls. Okay. Write down the 5 people you need to call. And for right now, just pick one. Okay. And then after you do one, you check in with your body, you see how you feel, and then maybe you can do 2. Or maybe you decide that the next one's going to be tomorrow or the day after that. The idea is that we don't have to do all the things all at once in order to be successful. Okay. We can have a bunch of these small wins and they're all going to add up and they're all going to benefit us, right? It's the same thing with self-care of our body. If you struggle with mental health issues and it's really hard to get into the shower, right? Maybe you just start by washing your hair, or maybe just start by brushing your teeth. Okay. Or maybe you start by getting a glass of water and going outside and getting some sunshine. Okay. So life is not this big pass fail, right? We don't have to constantly keep raising the bar for ourselves in order to be deemed quote unquote successful. That's something I really want you to remember. Okay. We can do tiny things. We can have little wins. And the really important part is to celebrate that win. It matters. It matters that you did the thing. It matters that you brushed your teeth, or you remembered to take your medication, or you cleared off the top of a coffee table, right? Or you dealt with 3 pieces of clothing that were on the floor. That matters. But I also want you to remember that in decluttering, there's a difference between decluttering and organizing. Okay, if we have a lot of stuff, then we can't organize that stuff if there's too much of it. So as you start decluttering, okay, when you're doing your conquering, the defending is going to get easier because you have less things to have to maintain. And that's really what the secret is. So when you feel stuck, I want you to take a couple of deep breaths and say to yourself, what's the next right thing? Okay. And then you do that thing and you celebrate that win. And then you ask yourself, what is the next right thing after that? Okay. This is really a foundational skill set that is going to help you get through those rough periods. Because I absolutely believe that you're capable. Okay. I just want you to start believing in yourself too. Take care and we'll see you next time.